Today we're going to use the Flexbox display to create a web page that features graphics in a variety of fun ways. To begin, we'll go to our folder, and this is just right in our Dreamweaver projects section, and I created a folder called Flexbox Demo, and in that folder I have another folder called Images with these 3 pictures in here. You can use whatever pictures you want, or you can use the ones that I sent you as an example. I have one that I called Header. It's going to be used for our hero piece. The end is just like our individual picture that we're going to have repeating in our project, but you can use multiple pictures for that if you want. And then I created a logo in Illustrator, and it's just kind of a little placeholder that we can use for that. Once you have that images folder in your Flexbox demo folder, and you have those pictures that are optimized for web, they're all small size. I already did that with the examples that I'm sharing with you. Then we're ready to get this show on the road. As always, go up to Site and New Site, and we'll click our folder, and we want to select our Flexbox demo, then select folder, and for the name of the site we can just call this Flexbox example page, and then save. Once that's done, then go up to File and New Document, HTML, none, and for the title we'll call it Flexbox example, and create. Brings us into our page view here in our code view. Then we can go to File, Save As, make sure you're in that same correct folder for Flexbox demo. Index.html is what we're calling it because this is the only page in this folder, so it's acting as our home page. Then we'll click Save. Alright, for the head section, we're going to leave it as that. If you end up incorporating this into your site, then you would want to put in the meta description and the content, so you could have that description in there that shows up in the search engine when the page is found. But for here, we're just going to kind of focus mostly on the Flexbox elements for this. We'll arrow down or select down into the body section, and then if we go over to Insert and we find the header, and we don't need a class or anything for the header right there, so we can just click OK, and then I'll press enter a few times in there to give myself some space to work with. And in the header I'll start by adding a div, and the div is going to have a class here, and we'll call this class container. Then we'll click OK. So it says div class equals container. We'll return that down a few times, and then in that container we're going to make yet another div, and this div is also going to have a class. This one here we will call logo hyphen container. So it's a logo that is in the container, and we can click OK. We'll return that down a little bit, and then if I go down into that logo container, I'm going to use a hyperlink. So I'll use my A tag in there, and in the A tag, for the opening part of it, I can use href equals quotation marks #, and this is just a space holder for the website. When you create this for your own page or your own site, you can put the home page in there, or right now you could just type in index.html, whatever you want the link for that to go to. And if you don't want it to be a link, you can take it out altogether. So there's that. I'm also in this A tag here, I'm going to put in an image. So img src equals quotation marks, and I'll type in images slash logo. I'll tell you, it is an amazing logo. .svg. So there's the picture in there. This is what's going to be hyperlinked. Normally we use text in there, but this time we're having a clickable image that'll take you to a site. And I'm also going to, in that same image tag, after those quotation marks, put in an alt, and then I'll go picture, or maybe like brand logo, something like that. And then I'm going to go width is equal quotation marks 50. All right, there's the closing of the A. I'm going to bring this div up. Here's the closing of this div. And then after this closing, but before this closing, I'm going to add another element right here, and this one is going to be my navigation. So I'll go to insert and nav, and I don't need any class or anything for that. We could just leave it as regular nav. And then underneath that, I will put in a tag in here, and I'll close it. And for the link on this, I'll do the same thing actually that I did up here. So I'll go href equals quotation marks #, and then you can customize that however you want it to be later. So just for a generic text, we'll use link 1. And then I'll copy this here and then paste this, so I have 4 links in there, and then this will be link 2, link 3, link 4, and bring that up to the top a little bit. Alright, underneath that we have the closing of our nav that includes those hyperlinks, and then I have my div right here, and then I have my header in that area. Okay, so I'm going to return a few times just to give myself some more room again. And here's the body and the HTML closing down at the bottom. After the header, then this one will be kind of at the same level again, and I'm going to add my main tag. So here's main. It does not need a class. I'll click OK. And I'll space that down some more. And in the main tag, then I want to add a section. And this section is going to have a class. I will call this hero-banner. Alright, and then I'll return this down. It keeps arrowing me up anyways. And in that section, then I can add another image. So we'll have a nice big background image for our banner up in the top. And we'll go img space src equals quotation marks. And then we'll go images slash header. And then .jpeg. Don't forget that. And then after that, I'll put in my alt text in case somebody is on this page who can't see, and then the screen reader will tell what it is. So I'll go image of fog and sunset. That'll give them an idea of what's in there. And then for the width, I can go 1920. Alright, and then beneath that H1, then I'm going to place a heading in here, So I'll click on that and add a H1. And the H1, the text for it is going to say text for hero image. And in this H1 here, I'm actually going to give it a class. Class is equal to, and then I'll type hero hyphen text hyphen overlay. So this will be something we haven't really done before, I don't think, in this class. Underneath that, then I think we're good to close up the section. So I'll arrow this up. That looks nice. And then after the section, but still in the main, I'll press enter. And here we can include another div. And this div is going to have a class of container. And it's also going to have an ID, and we'll give this an ID of example. This will be something you'll probably end up changing these classes and IDs when you make this for your own site. And you can use words that kind of go along with the theme of your page. Since this is an example, you know, I'm just using example and generic things. Container might stay the same, but you know, some of your other descriptions might change depending on what you're trying to accomplish. So we got that. Let's clear out that text in that div. And in this div, we can include an H2. So we'll go over here to heading, click the little drop down and select H2. And we'll type in text for H2. All right, and you can kind of see up here what's going on with our picture a little bit. All right, underneath that, then we're going to place in here another section. So we'll find section. And this section is going to have a class. And we can call this one example hyphen container. And then we'll click OK. And here's that information. We'll clear the text out and give ourselves some room in there. And then we're going to add another div. And in this div, we'll go with a class name of individual hyphen example. After that, we can press return, and then we'll go up here, and just to kind of stay with our theme here, because this is a smaller section inside of the others, then I'm going to use an H3 in this one. So we have our little hierarchy of text in there to keep organized with that layout kind of order. And in here we'll type in individual title. Will work just fine. And then underneath that, and still in the div, we'll use an image, and source equals quotation marks, and we'll use images / IND, which is just short for individual picture, is why I named it that, JPEG. And then we'll go alt equals quotation marks, picture of sunflower. And we can give this a width of 400. And then we'll close that angle bracket up right there. And then beneath that, we'll put in a regular paragraph. So over here from the side, we can select paragraph, and we'll type in, here is some text about the individual example illustrated above. We're still going to remain in the div here, and this is going to be after the paragraph, but I'm going to put a little space in here just to, because this next part's going to be behaving separately a little bit. And in here I'll place in an unordered list, so we'll use our UL tag, and with this UL I'm going to give it a class is equal to example information. Alright, and then in there I'm going to put in a list item, and in this first list item, you know, we're actually, I think, going to have 2 of these. Here is some extra information that is interesting to know. And then in the second list item, I'll use my A tag again, and then we'll go href equals quotation marks #, so that'll be the link to wherever you want it to go, and then I'll type in website destination. So if this is going to nationalgeographic.com or something, down here it might say National Geographic home page. Alright, there's our closing of the list. Here's our closing of the unordered list. And I think now we're ready to actually close up that div right there also. So I'll select it from here down to this div below, and then I can copy that, and then in here I'll paste that in there, so I have 2 of them in there. This one here I might call individual title 2, just so you can kind of see how they'll look in here. Then after that I'll paste this in, and we'll have individual example 3, and then I can go individual example 4, and I just want to use, like, I'll put in an odd number just to kind of give a better example of how it works. We'll put in our footer and just use a regular footer in there. And then in that I'm going to place in a paragraph, and I'll type in website created by, and we'll use our name, and then and copy semicolon, and just put a year in there. And now we're ready to create our styling for this. So we'll go File, Save All, and then we'll go over here to CSS Designer and add a source, create a new CSS file, and then we can click Browse to make sure we're in our Flexbox demo folder, and we'll type in styles.css. We'll click Save. Make sure that link is selected and OK. And because when we did that, it adds this little line here of code to our HTML. We'll go File, Save All, and then we'll go over here to our styles. And again, you can either select your styles over here and add the selector and then the properties, or you can type them in. I'm going to use a few comments in mine, so for me it's just easier to include it in on this. So I might start off with and I'm going to just copy that so I have access to it later, so I don't have to keep typing it in because it's a little awkward. And I'll type in CSS document for Flexbox image page, and that way I'll know what the heck this is later. And then I'm going to put in another comment here, and this is going to be our universal styling. To clear out all the default padding and margins and everything, I'll use a little asterisk on there, and then my fancy brackets, and I'll go margin is going to be 0, padding is going to be 0, and border is going to be 0. So that's our first one in there. Then after that, I'm going to make one for H1, H2, and H3 because I have all three of these in my code. And in here I can place in padding is going to be 10px and 0. And the font hyphen family is going to be Open Sans or Sans Serif. So if you have Open Sans installed, that'll work, and if not, it'll use a default sans serif in there. Then after that, I'm going to change a few other elements here. One of them is going to be for my H1, and I'll go font hyphen size 42px. And then to add my paragraph in there, line hyphen height is 140%. And the margin is going to be 10px 0. So 10px above and below and 0 laterally. Then for my unordered list and paragraph and A, my hyperlinks, I'll go font hyphen family serif. So this will just be, real generic. You can change whatever font types you want that go along with the brand of the web page that you're working on with that. And then underneath that, we can go dot container, and we'll go max hyphen width of 900px and a margin of 0 above and below, but auto to the sides. All right, I'm going to open this up here just to kind of see how things are looking up here. We haven't styled that yet. But down here we have this information, and it's already starting to look a little bit more like a web page. So I do like that so far. Okay, after the container, then I'll put in another comment here. And this section is going to be about the styling the header. And I'll type in header, and then I'll use background is going to be $000,000, and then I'll go padding is going to be 20px and 0. And then Z index, and I may change this later, but I think right now it's going to be 4 because we're going to have different elements where I want it to make sure that the header is at the top above those. And then I'm going to go header nav A, and this will be display inline hyphen block, margin 0 space 15px, and text hyphen decoration is going to be none. Font hyphen weight is going to be bold, and color is going to be #FFF FFF semicolon. All right, and then beneath that part, we'll go header and dot container. And in here we'll go display is going to be flex. Align hyphen items is going to be center. And because on one side we have our links and the other side we're going to have our logo, and we want these to be on the right side and the logo to be on the left, then what we can do here is we could say justify content is space hyphen between. Alright, now we'll check this out on here and see how this is looking. And if you remember, like this was in its own container and then this was in its own container. So it automatically is saying we're going to justify this, so this is always to the right and then this is always to the left up there. And that is starting to look pretty good for the top of the web page. I do like that quite a bit. Okay, now that we got the header done, the next thing that we need to do is work with that giant picture. We need to make it look a little bit better in there. So we'll paste this comment thing in here again, and here I'll type in styling the hero section. Alright, and we'll begin with dot hero hyphen banner is the class name we used for that. And we'll go position relative. And then beneath that we'll go dot hero hyphen banner and the H1. And we'll type in position absolute. Bottom 20px, left 0, right 0, max hyphen width is going to be 900px, and then margin is going to be 0 space auto, and the color is going to be $FFF FFF semicolon. And then underneath that we can say dot hero hyphen banner colon before, and we'll type in here content is going to be empty quotation marks, and we'll go position is absolute, background color is going to be $000,000, and top is going to be 0, right is going to be 0, left is going to be 0, and bottom is going to be 0. And this is going to be opacity of 0.5. So basically what we're doing on this is just to have our text show up a little bit better. We're going to be having like a layer of black over the top of it, and then that would obviously hide everything, but if we change the opacity to 0.5, it'll make that picture just a little bit darker so that the text over the top of it shows up nicer. Then we can go dot hero hyphen banner img, and we'll go width is going to be 100% and display is going to be block. Alright, saving that, going in here, going to refresh this, and now we have our text showing up over the picture. So instead of trying to create a picture with your text for your banner in Photoshop or whatever and bringing it in here, this is a way you can have the image here. And with this, you can see where we controlled the spacing of this on here. You can play around with these values if you want. Maybe you want the text to be in the middle, and you can watch some of the other tutorials I had made where we do place that in different areas. But I thought just for something different on this one, we could put it in there. When the screen is big, that picture is awfully large on there, so you might play around with the size on that further, or use a different image that's going to fit in there a little easier. Might be something worth looking into. You know, once it's like normal size, it doesn't look too bad, but yeah, that might be something you play around with further down the road, depending on what kind of picture you're using. Alright, on the next part, each of these items in here is like a container. So I do want to play around with the styling for that to make it look a little nicer. So I'll go down here below that and I'll paste in another comment, and in here we can type in example containers, and just to keep consistent, styling the example containers. There we go. Alright, and to do that we'll go dot example hyphen container, because that's what we named it in our HTML on the previous page. We'll go display flex and flex hyphen wrap, and underneath that we'll go dot individual hyphen example max hyphen width is going to be 400 px. We'll give it a slight margin of 10 px, and border hyphen bottom. Sometimes we use that HR element where it puts the underline underneath it, but a teacher had shown me one time that border hyphen bottom actually works a little bit cleaner. I do like that better. So if you see me kind of going back and forth between, you know, it's something I'm always kind of playing with on that and seeing which one I like to customize more often. So border hyphen bottom, and I want it to be 1 pixel solid, and I'm going to go # CCC CCC. Alright, and then underneath that, for the images, we'll go dot individual hyphen example img, and we'll go height is going to be 150 px, and because this isn't necessarily going to be the size of the pictures, but I don't want the pictures to be squished in there. I want them to fit in there naturally. So we're going to have some parts of our pictures that are not going to be viewable, and we can do that by saying object hyphen fit cover, and that'll make sure our images aren't distorted when they're inside of that little card we're making. Dot example hyphen information, almost forgot what I called it. Example information. So this is going to be just our stuff that was in our unordered list, and we'll use list hyphen style none, and we'll go font hyphen weight is going to be bold to make it stand out, and we're actually going to start off making it display none to have it be invisible. This isn't something you have to do, but I think it is kind of a fun thing to do with your page, as long as it doesn't make it too distracting. I'll let you be the judge of it, but just to show you how we would do this, dot example hyphen information li, we'll use margin 10 px 0, and then down here we'll go dot individual example colon hover, and then we'll go space dot example information. There we go. And we'll put those brackets in there, and then we'll go display block. So when we hover over those elements with our mouse, then it shows up in there. Then down here at the very bottom, we'll quickly style our footer, and we'll go background color # 333 and then we'll go text align center. Color is going to be # FFF, and we'll go padding will be 20px 0. Alright, moment of truth. File, save all. We'll check this out and then see if we have any troubleshooting that we need to do after that. So open up the page and refresh it, and things are actually looking pretty encouraging on here. So with this, we can see in here where we have the page showing these little cards underneath. That doesn't look too bad. We have this up here, and our H1 is in line with this amazing logo area up here. It's within those bounds of that because they have the same class. And then responsive on there, so even when it shrinks down, those will never be outside of the box. And then down here for our cards that we've created, and again, you would obviously have different images for these, but you kind of see how this works. Once it gets to a certain size, you know, then it's down in one column. One thing that I don't like on here is that when we look at these screens on here, we shouldn't actually be seeing this information beneath it yet. This should only be showing up if we hover over the top of it. So let's go back and look at our coding and see if we can figure out what's happening there. It looks like everything looks fine. I don't notice anything incorrect with the CSS of this. But if I go over to the source code and I scroll down, and this should be in our example information class, and here we have it right here. So here's the UL class where it says example information. I don't have a hyphen in there. Okay, so I need to click on that and fix that in those lines. One other thing too I just noticed is making these changes. This won't really impact our code on here, but on here where I have the number 3 up here, I actually want to put that in here in the H3. I just got in a hurry earlier. Like I said, it won't impact your page right now at this time, but it is something that, other than the titles, something that could cause you problems in your styling later on. Alright, now we'll save that one last time. 2, 3, 4, 5. And everything works perfectly. Awesome. So there it is. That's your image-based Flexbox layout that could be used for a variety of purposes. Have fun playing around with it and customizing it. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you have ideas for more tutorials. I appreciate you watching, and have a great day. Alright, now I'll save that. Make sure I have my CSS saved also. Now if I check this out, now it's looking correct. So the information is hidden in there, it's not showing it, but when I hover over it, we see the extra information and then the website. And then we have that in there. So I do think that's something that's kind of fun to play around with. And like I said, sometimes it might be a little too distracting for your page, but most of the time I think it's something that would, you know, work kind of nicely, and kind of declutters your page a little bit at first glance also. And there it is. That's your Flexbox image themed web page that you can use for a variety of pages. It could be like a landing page, it could be a home page where you have your different pages underneath it and you give a little description about what those are about. You have a decent nav menu up here that you can always play around with further, and this hero space also. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know if you have other ideas for tutorials. Don't be afraid to ask me any questions, and have a great day.